So I feel the Kendrick diss. We not gonna waste too much time. We gonna get into it, man. One thing I gotta say before we get into this, you're not listening to a stan. Funny thing is, last video somebody still commented after I said I wasn't a stan. Their first sentence was, "I could tell you're a Drake stan, even though you said you're not a stan." And then they wrote like 8 paragraphs. They probably like 58 because they mentioned like NWA and some other people for some reason. They probably from the West Coast too. They probably was fixing the spokes on their Daytons or some shit before they, typed that out. And it just really hit me, especially if you watch the channel. Like when I first listened to the Drake diss, I didn't feel it. Then it grew on me. I just mentioned my gripes about the Kendrick shit. And this one, I actually like. And the funny thing about the Drake diss is the second one. I don't think I reported on the second one. The second Drake diss I actually liked off rip. So it's kind of funny. But you would know that I'm not a stan if you really follow the channel. Some of these people just don't follow it. So with that being said, enough about me. Let's get into it. So if you're not aware, the title is 616 in LA, and he has a Maybach glove on maybe a tablecloth, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's the artwork. And it's ironic because, he's beefing with Ross right now, Maybach Music, whatever. Now, one of the first things we're going to talk about is the production. It comes in with a cassette tape playing as far as you could hear it moving and stuff like that. Then it comes in with the soulful chords. This cat is saying, somebody's lying. You get it, boom, boom, boom. Then the soulful beat kicks in. Listen, I do not think this is the best diss beat. Like, I don't think it's the best diss beat, but this is the thing. It's a good beat. It is a very solid beat. I'm not gonna lie. It's almost infectious. I'm not gonna lie. To me, I got homies. Most of the homies think it's good. One of the homies really don't fuck with it at all. But for me, I came up on Kanye and shit like that. So like, that's and just all types of East Coast hip hop. So like as far as what I gravitated to early, like so that like is really a part of my foundation. And before cats get to the, oh man, he hate the West Coast. I love the West Coast. We're not even gonna get deep on that because that's not what this is about. So the beat is fire. It's just not aggressive enough for a diss, but it still serves a purpose. You got to think about Adidon. Adidon wasn't the most, diss-worthy beat, but Pusha T still won with that beat. So with that being said, we move on to what he's saying and stuff like that. That whole first, it's funny because you really, he doesn't really take a break, but everybody can understand that there's a first verse and a second verse. Like everybody I talk to, they say second verse, that's where it's at. So the first verse, he just talking. I want to make one quick point about the first verse. He mentions Lucali's dwelling in Brooklyn, and he did that with a Chinese spot in LA on the first diss. I'm not going to look up the name or nothing like that. People left a bunch of positive reviews just because, from all around the globe, they left positive reviews for this place just because Kendrick mentioned it in a song. And in LA, the business blew up. They were just going ham for days, and they're probably still going ham to this day. This business, because it's 10, no, it's 11:09 right now. I'm guessing this disc dropped at like, whatever time, like early, because, it didn't drop at 12 because I was up at 12 a.m. But it dropped in the AM, bruh. They are going crazy in the reviews right now for this spot. It is currently closed. It's not open at this moment. When them doors open, I can almost guarantee, like, they're going to have more business than usual. So we're not going to hyper dissect the lyrics. We're just going to go to the second verse and go to the main angle of the second verse, which is something that is not something everybody knew or anything, that because these stands is just going crazy. They like, oh, we knew this because of the weekend. The weekend was never truly OVO, and even if you want to say he was, because he was never signed to Drake, bruh, that was over 10 years ago. It's 2014. Like, Take Care was like 2012, maybe at the latest. if not like 2011 or some shit. Like, whatever, man. But the angle that I'm talking about is not only that people in OVO or most of the OVO resents Drake and doesn't like Drake, doesn't fuck with Drake, but even more, two people very close to him cannot stand him or his lifestyle, but they don't have the courage to say it. Kendrick said the audacity. 20 of them want him as a casualty. They want him dead. But one of them is very close to him. Now, Kendrick could just be lying because he said somebody's lying. He could just be lying. But if he's telling the truth, that is crazy. One of the things that I think would be crazy, because this is the thing. From a lot of this, what I gathered is, because he said, what if OVO is working for me? That is just a brilliant angle. I don't care if it's real or fake. It's a brilliant angle just for the public perception and things like that. And even to make Drake paranoid, it's a great tactic. That's just what it is. And even if you say it's not a tactic or anything like that, even if it's real, like let's say it's 100% real, he could have just sat on that and never said nothing. So you can't say that it's not a tactic. Drake mentioned The Weeknd's manager Cash on his diss, and Kendrick said in this diss before he got to that part about, all the stuff that Cash isn't even the leak, implying that there is a leak. So that's the other thing that's pretty jarring about this diss. Like the whole angle is that OVO, not only are they on payroll and they're pretty much, paid protection as far as some of those dudes and just paid entourage and etc. But a lot of them, or the majority of them, don't fuck with Drake for real. Even people very close to him. Now, this is the funny thing when you think about this. Because when you put it like that and you like, let's just pretend that it's real. The way that everybody got on the last one was because 40 was pillow talking to a hoe that went back and told Pusha T all the information. Point being, all it takes is some of these guys in the inner circle, especially some of the major people like, Chubbs or 40 or any other person that is significant or close to Drake within OVO, running their mouth to someone else who is not a part of the circle and has no loyalty to OVO. And ironically, the person that's talking to him, like how 40, the hoe didn't owe 40 no loyalty because she's a hoe. So I think that's really the meat and potatoes of the diss when you really look at it. And what I don't want to hear, because the stand narratives are going to start popping up. It's, again, I said I'm doing this at 11 a.m. The stand narratives, expect them to be in full effect by 6, because niggas got jobs and shit. Niggas is going to be at work at their day job and shit. Some people going to start saying stuff at lunchtime, but they're going to be in full effect by 6 p.m. Eastern time all over the internet. You're going to see the stand stuff going, man, he don't know nothing. You're going to see all the stuff, bro. Now, Kendrick didn't take the 20v1 approach because he decided to address Akademiks, but one of the things that he said was basically, you're not going to get no points for bullying Akademiks. So he just left it there. He left it there. He didn't even go. He just pointed out Akademiks is clearly biased. And with the way he did all the theatrics with the slander of the last Kendrick diss, I don't blame Kendrick for thinking that. I don't blame Kendrick for thinking that because it wasn't the greatest diss of all time and it wasn't the greatest effort. And I've already given my gripes about it, but it was too solid to make a mockery of. I'll be honest about that. It's too solid to make a fucking mockery of. And I get it, when you look at Ak is not a serious figure. So he can do things in jest and he will do things in jest and he will say funny stuff and he will do funny stuff and et cetera, et cetera. versus like an Elliot Wilson who you've never in your life seen crack a funny joke and is serious all the time. But the difference between those two is I know Elliot Wilson respects the craft. Act, I can't even say this like confidently and point to an example. So I say it tongue in cheek. I don't think he respects the craft. I would really have to go into my memory bank to point out certain instances where he doesn't. I know from the whole old school nigga beef shit, that was one of the things that really turned me off about Act because he shitted on all the people who paved the way and shit like that, even though they weren't really saying much. They weren't really like, it was during the 50th anniversary of hip hop year last year, and he just went in on all the old rappers because of one old rapper that he wouldn't name. Now, the other angle that Kendrick takes in this is that Drake was putting money into the streets to try and get dirt on Kendrick, and it didn't work. Now, I'm not going to go too deep on this. You could speculate that he was using it through WAC 100. He also mentioned, I had to look into the lyrics because he mentioned somebody named Zach. Zach is a promoter in LA. So I don't know if he was trying to implicate him or whatever and all that stuff. I don't know. But yeah, that sounds valid. So, a valid point. And I'm going to tell you why. Because in the Pusha T beef, Pusha T went on Joe Budden and played recordings of a private investigator or something along those lines calling people from Pusha T's past trying to get dirt. And now it might not have been a private investigator. That might be a Jap, but like somebody though. Somebody who was sent to get the information. And that's pretty much my assessment. The only thing I have on top of that is that if Kendrick has a recording of somebody from OVO saying something disparaging about Drake, and if it's like really some nuclear shit or whatever, that will be explosive, especially if it's a voice that you can recognize. But even then, you won't be able to recognize the voice off rip. You're going to have to go and Google it because none of those other guys are really famous for real. Like, I know 40, but the bitch shaking her ass and wiggling her ass to Drake records has no idea what 40 even looks like. No matter how much he stands next to Drake. Like, people don't know producers. I'm not going to go deep on that. I think I mentioned it, Mariah Carey voicemails on the Eminem disc, when that dropped, that was explosive. Because that was ammo nobody expected, and she was antagonizing him. I guess she forgot about them voicemails, or she thought that he didn't still have those because they had whatever fling they had in the 2000s and it was the 2010s. But when that shit dropped and he had little snippets in that warning shot disc of the voicemails that he had kept, boy, that shit was explosive. It was crazy. So if Kendrick has anything like that, I'm going to tell you it's going to be very explosive and very hard for Drake to top if he didn't come up with any information and stuff like that. So that's really my assessment. I would think this next round is going to be the final round, but I hope that they just go all out in this next round and just lay it all on the table, leave it all out, and then we could be done with this shit, and that'll be it. Let me know your thoughts somehow.